Okay, we're recording. Mom, do you know what bursts my bubble?
What bursts your bubble?
I don't really have anything, to say. So, let's talk about some topics. So, Mom,
Okay.
when I was a child, I was severely bullied in middle and high school, and that really affected my social development. Um, what?
There's there's a lot of people and the things that I've watched on TV lately about people. So many people get bullied in school, especially high school, which really frustrates me because we should have more awareness of bullying. I think at this time in our society, there should be more awareness of what goes on, and teachers need to play a role in this.
Right, according to Dr. Natural, that's what affected my social development. And when I turned 18 and graduated high school, I mean, I had no friends and I was running and exercising all day long for years. And,
Well, bullying has a negative effect on people for their whole lives. Whether the bullying is in, it comes in different forms, and it can go
no,
into.
and like I said, obviously, I mean, I was a little anxious as a child, and that made me susceptible to bullies. I don't know if that's necessarily true because I mean, I always found when people shine brightly and they have like hearts of gold and good vibrations, the mean-spirited, sadistic bullies will always pick up on the good vibrations, be jealous, and want to, harm
A
them.
lot of times it is jealousy. A
No,
lot
no,
of
no,
times.
and I even noticed that, like, even at the train station, there are, criminals that will sense like the goodness in you, and they'll target
Yes,
you.
the kindness in you,
Or
and
like
they'll
even at like a restaurant or a coffee shop, somebody will just not like you because you're giving off good vibrations. I don't know why people
sometimes it's jealousy. They think you look better than them. Sometimes it's that they think you have more money than them. Sometimes it's just the fact that they're mean spirited and they're unhappy with themselves. That's what I find. I find people that are unhappy with themselves tend to be mean spirited people.
Right, and the bullying I went through, especially the middle school bullying, intensified my fear of the real world. I started to think everybody was viewing me in a critical way, and I, I don't know if
Well,
you've
you
ever,
start to.
I don't know if you've ever heard the Pink Floyd album "The Wall," but that's kind of what happened. I was anxious, agoraphobic, afraid of the world, and I was trying to hide from the world because I had no social skills, and I basically separated myself in a daydream land, and
a
that's what.
lot of a lot of people do that. A lot of people will separate themselves from the level of external the comfort of a lower keyed environment. We had a friend who um
And basically, I don't know, like, part of the reason, obviously, I know Dr. Natural says socialization is the key to recovery. Because when you're socially isolated, as I've been with the coronavirus, you tend to daydream, and the line between fantasy and reality becomes blurred when you're alone. I mean, it's just common sense. If you're interacting with people in the real world, you get a firm grasp on reality because you have a life in the real world. If you're alone in your bedroom posting on the internet, you'll tend to get lost in fantasy. I mean, it really just, and that's kind of what happened and why I got delusional in 2011 when I was 23 years old.
but you
Because,
know what, the things that I'm listening that they're suggesting for people, and it's not people just that have had such trauma that you have, but all people right now are going through the trauma. Think about people that have in apartment buildings on the 20th floor. They have a one bedroom apartment, and now they can't go out in the city at night or even during the day because it's too dangerous. Think about the level of social isolation. They can call people,
I mean,
but they can't even go out local.
human beings are social creatures.
Yes, and we need.
Socialization is ingrained in us. We're meant to socialize. So when you're
Absolutely.
alone, you develop poor mental health.
Yes, and that's what they're saying all over, that people have to reach out and find things to socialize, find things to socialize to do. Like, even I know reading is a solitary thing, but it takes you kind of to another place, and it's healthy because it takes your mind out of ruminating. I think
a friend from the Psychosocial Clubhouse said I might be stuck in fight or flight mode from the bullying, and because I have a hard time sitting still. I can't concentrate on reading. I'm kind of in a constant state of movement, and that's because I might be stuck in fight or flight mode. I might have to just realize there's no danger. Get back to calmness. Get back.
But that takes practice. If you're a hyper person by nature. And I think all of our family is hyper by nature. We just don't like sitting still. You almost have to retrain yourself to be able to relax. I like to keep moving. That relaxes me until I get physically tired. But the mind is a different thing. Sometimes if the mind gets tired first, then, and your body's physically hyper, it's hard then, because you're kind of fighting a dual battle. Like if your mind is tired but your body's hyper, you're fighting against yourself. If your body
so let's analyze the delusions and psychosis I was getting. I think according to my doctor, the sadistic monsters who took.
But how many times are we going to?
I'm educating that. I mean, I know I say it to you a lot off camera, but I'm educating my audience about it. According to my doctor,
but they don't understand. You have to tell them. You have to tell
so I often get delusions that my parents are nefarious and the bane of my existence, and I'll explain to them that's a delusion. My parents love me very much. Even disappointing parents aren't sadistic monsters. The sadistic monsters.
Well, I guess there could be some, but most parents are not.
Right. The sadistic monsters who wanted to hurt me were the middle and high school bullies. They did not love me. They were mean-spirited. They were trying to harm me. But my parents loved me very much. And being home, having no friends, no socialization, you tend to get frustrated with parental figures, and they irritate you. And you can't. I mean, unfortunately, the bullies are long gone. I can't do anything. You know what I mean? They're long gone. I can't say this is. So. You unfortunately take your frustrations out on the people that are closest to you, and that's the reason.
That's what we do.
That's why I started getting delusional about my parents. My parents love me. That you wouldn't be providing me with this apartment-like area, giving me money and allowing me to go to the Psychosocial Clubhouse in the city if you didn't love me. You would just there's no like Dr. Evil from Austin Powers conspiracy. You would be kicking me out on the street saying, "Get lost." If you didn't love me,
And that would be a bully to just say, get lost and not care. That wouldn't be a loving family member. That would be a bully. But I
don't know. I didn't really explain the Austin Powers. Like what Dr. Evil does is he put Austin Powers in a easily escapable situation. And it's like, and like Scott Evil says, it's like, why don't you just get a gun and shoot him? You know what I mean? Like, why are you putting him in this easily escapable situation? And that's kind of what I'm saying. Like, you would keep me prisoner here. It doesn't make any sense. You love me. You're providing me with a place to live because you want me to fly from your nest. You know what I mean? It just doesn't make any sense.
But sometimes I think people need a reason to be frustrated and a reason to be angry. So it's easier to create a reason than to internalize any of it. And none of us like to internalize or self-reflect on what we could. Now that's taking onus on ourselves.
And like even like the really over the top delusions I was getting about dad. I don't want to exactly.
No, we don't.
But like I didn't have girlfriends. I got my first girlfriend when I was 24 years old. It's kind of like I had a dependency, and it's kind of like I want mommy and daddy to help me with this socialization problem. If you really think about it, even though it is very confused, it isn't just complete random thoughts. There is truth to the thoughts. Do you know what I mean?
But I know this is a podcast, and I know we're discussing very serious things about yourself.
No. It's a mental health related podcast, and I actually wanted to get a mental health related podcast.
But don't you think we should be more general? In other words, if we do this podcast,
I think full disclosure, no transparency, especially with me. I mean, I'm a little bit of an exhibitionist. What have you disclosed about yourself? It's mostly me,
Yeah, but no, that doesn't bother me. It's what bothers me is that if somebody out there wants to relate to you, right, in a podcast, I think that instead of always, explaining yourself and what you went through a little bit is one thing, but also inviting, Ken, on your podcast, can you invite people to call in?
Right. That's definitely, obviously my goal. Obviously Howard Stern is a shock jock. He does over the top humor. But my goal is to have like a talk show someday and have people call in.
But you could have a.
And I was thinking about developing that at the Psychosocial Clubhouse, maybe a talk show where people.
I think that would be great. I think you have to pull away from you. You have to try to address the whole scope of reasons people have problem issues.
Okay, so now, if you don't notice, I talk about myself a lot, especially on social media, in my text messages on YouTube. And somebody asked, does that mean you're a narcissist? That's actually not true, because narcissists can't poke fun at themselves. They can't do self-deprecating humor. I think the reason when you're alone and you don't really have friends, what else is there to talk about besides yourself? You know what I mean?
Well, but you want to develop a podcast where people can.
If you think about it, isn't Howard Stern a narcissist? Because that's all he really talks about. He talks about himself, and he
right. But you're trying to help people. You're trying to get people to call in and
right. No. I was talking about Howard Stern, but right. My goal is to help people in the mental health community at the site, and I want to develop this podcast at the Psychosocial Clubhouse. I also wanted to try comedy someday, and acting and theater. So when the coronavirus passes and things go back to normal, I'm going to go to local comedy clubs and try.
You could even bring your comedy into your podcast and help people redirect and teach them with your own experiences how to redirect their thoughts into creative comedy writing and doing things that are creative to help redirect their thinking and their negativity. Because when we create and when we get affirmation about the things that we've created, I think the positivity in our whole being shines. And I think we can become like people reaching out just to hear a kind word from somebody, say, well, I felt that way. I felt alone. I've been in my room and I've had nothing but negative bullies all my high school years. And people could reach out to you and say, but look at what you've achieved with everything that you've been through. Look at what you've achieved. Like, that's where you want to go and help people, because they want to look to you and to your show as being a place of only positive direction and only happy, conclusions to things that maybe, well, how would you have dealt with that?
Okay, so that's a very valid point. And, actually, believe it or not, art has helped me in so many ways. I find it therapeutic. I feel validated. I feel heard through my art. Prior to my art, I found, everybody needs a purpose in life. Prior to my art, I found release in over-exercise. I would run and walk all day long. And, if you don't have something in your life, you're going to go crazy. And, walking and exercising was a release. But I find more satisfaction in composing my videos, my social media posts, than I ever did in exercise. And actually, my life isn't in danger, because when you exercise and have a severe eating disorder, that's scary. So there are a lot worse things that you could be doing than posting videos,
Right. As long as, like you said, it doesn't take you into, an area that you can't escape out of. You know what I mean?
Yeah, some people use substances, and I'm not using substances. Some people, over-exercise. I'm making YouTube and social media posts. Sometimes I get a little shock jock like Howard Stern, but for the most part, it's actually healthy. Just don't make that all you do. But then again, it's like Olympic runners. That's all they do. They train all day long, and you're not going to win the gold medal if you don't just put your all into it,
Right. And also, I think that practicing some comedic skits that maybe not, you don't want to say, obviously, because there's nothing funny about illness and mental illness, but being able to laugh at situations that you've been through now because you feel healthier. In other words, that everybody should be able to get to a point, hopefully in their life, by talking it out.
I know Dr. Natural said he thinks one of my strengths that a lot of people haven't done before is comedy related to mental health. And I know there's movies such as what's that movie with Bradley Cooper?
Silver Linings Playbook.
Yeah, like it's comedic in a way, and people like that because it takes a very serious and dark topic and makes you smile at the whole.
And makes you smile at the ending of that movie is so emotional because I can remember the ending. He says, "The world will beat you up 100 ways to Sunday." And he said, but it's the love of your family, your friends, your doctors, and all the people that love you that make life worthwhile.
Right. And you know, that's a strength because I'm very good at comedy. You know, like Dr. Natural says, I'm not a comic genius. I mean, because, you know, comic genius, I would have to have a successful show, like a radio show or a show like Seinfeld. I don't have evidence of success. I have a YouTube channel that gets very few views. There's no evidence I'm a comic genius, but I do have a good sense of humor. He acknowledges that. And if I combine that with a screenplay about my life experiences in mental health, maybe I'll have something that can be turned into some sort of production someday, you know?
Okay, so let's get specific about certain things. There was groups years ago that I remember that's specifically focused on, say, anxiety. Let's take anxiety as a topic, okay?
Yeah.
A lot of people today, and especially with the coronavirus, has made people's anxiety go through the roof, you know, about many different aspects of what's going on in our world today. So if you have anxiety and you're having trouble with anxiety and depression, let's say, you know, I don't think there's a lot out there for people to call in and say, I'm having an anxiety attack. Do you have any advice, Andrew, what to do? I mean, is it okay to use your name?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I don't care.
Your first name?
Yeah.
Is
fine.
it okay? And is it okay, Andrew, if I was a caller calling in and saying, you've been through a lot, Andrew. Can you help me right now with what I'm going through, with feeling like I'm going to jump out?
That's kind of what happens at the Psychosocial Clubhouse and support groups like NAMI, for example. A lot of people, you know, have these experiences, and that's why a lot of people, you know, network, socialize. That's why, you know, being alone and, you know, not interacting is bad, because when you have these things, interacting, expressing yourself to friends, making friends in the real world is, you know, the key to recovery, basically. Just, you know, realizing you're not alone, realizing you're not the only one, realizing.
But I think Andrew, if you did a YouTube that was available maybe 3 times a week for an hour to callers to call in and ask about some of the things that you've experienced, you know, with the whole litany of your experience with dealing with these things, they could call in and they could ask you, well, how did you handle that? Where did you go? How, you know, what things helped you? I think that making that available, how do you make that available to people to call in and do that?
Well, I mean,
I
mean, I know you were critical of, you know, me getting this webcam when I first got it. You're like, oh my God, he's getting a live streaming webcam. But, you know, I mean, this is kind of what it's doing. It's giving me an ability to make videos that go live, and people could potentially call in and interact with me. But, you know, I mean, at the moment, I mean, like Dr. Natural says, you're not a comic genius, or you're not a genius, because.
But you don't have to.
I mean, because like who's gonna call in besides you? You're sort of calling in right now, and I'm having a show with you.
No, I mean, but this is what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, if I was a single person, maybe in my late teens, early 20s, whatever, and I'm listening to you talk, you're saying I'm not a comic genius, but that's your other area that you work on because you like to put humor in with all the things that you've suffered. And say there's somebody out there that's hurting and feeling really, really, really down. I mean, to call in and say, hey, Andrew, can you tell me how you smile, what makes you smile, and what gets you to a good place when you're, in other words, why
Comedy,
wouldn't they?
I mean, here's what does it for me. Comedy, performance art. I know you said you saw performance art on America's Got Talent, and you're like, I was expecting them to go like wee wah, but believe it or not, that's the genre I'm doing. It's performance art. So I do comedy.
But so yours, but where can people, if they,
I mean,
if they
okay,
call,
well, let me finish my speech. So basically, I find validation through social media posts, like on Twitter, and blog posts, like on Blogger, YouTube videos, and I feel validated. I feel heard. It's artistic expression. It's very healthy. I know some people find it through running. Some people find it. I mean, you need a purpose. You need something in your life, and yeah. I mean, and obviously friendship is good too. I mean, solitude and having no friends and being lost in delusions and fantasy. I mean, because that's what happened to me. I mean, for years I had no friendships. I had no socialization. I was alone in my head. And
so if you were to, advise,
let me finish, please. Don't interrupt. So I was alone in my head. So I began fantasizing, and when you're lost in fantasy long enough, the line between fantasy and reality gets blurred. And that's what happens. I began daydreaming. So when you have no friendships, you begin daydreaming about friendships. It was like kids from high school coming back into my life, like kids from the computer programming class. Like, are they watching me on my walks? And then it escalated to celebrities knowing who I am. And then it became like really over the top fantasies. But that's why socialization is so important, interacting with people, because you get grounded in reality,
So this is my question to you. I mean, you're funny. You've done stand-up comedy in front of people
at the Psychosocial Clubhouse. I did it in college. So and actually, this, I'm biased, and my friend tells me, but she says I was probably one of the better acts at the Psychosocial Clubhouse, meaning my comedy really shines, and keep expanding on it. My goal is to be okay.
But you are funny, and the thing that I'm hoping is that your humor, and as you perfect that side of what you want to do, I'm hoping that you'll have available to people out there a way to connect with you, not so much about all of the things that you've lived through and how you've gained so much ground in where you are now, but helping them call in and tell you what they're going through, and then you can advise them on what you would suggest they do.
Okay, right. And that's a very good point. Sometimes they have these comedies like Borat, Dumb and Dumber, even like Broken Matt Hardy from wrestling, where they take a topic like mental health and they make a buffoon-like joke out of it. I kind of want my comedy to be a little bit of like a soul-crushing, gut-wrenching story too, where you experience the sadness. It's not just a complete joke like Borat. I want it to be, I want it to have like meaning and be like, wow, this is, I mean, even though this guy suffered a lot, he still has a good sense of humor. He can still smile. I don't want it to be like, they die, just a complete joke. You know what I mean?
Right. I think that that's important, because, and I think
and mental health isn't a joke. You can try to make somebody out to be a buffoon, completely crazy, but it's really not. It's really not a funny topic. I mean, I have a good sense of humor, so I can behave over the top and eccentric, but it's really a sad topic. It's real. I mean, I've experienced a lot of tragedy. I know Dr. Natural says some of the best comedians have experienced a lot of hurt, a lot of pain, and they hide their pain behind a mask of happiness and smile. So they're smiling, they behave like clowns, but behind the mask, they're really in a lot of pain.
Yes, that's very true. That's very true. You take like the comedian Robin Williams, he was in pain most of his life, and you would never, ever think that. But making people laugh was his drug of choice, making people laugh. But what's good is if you can recognize and talk about your illnesses not you, I mean people can talk about their illnesses, but also embrace comedy and be able to laugh at the things that were such struggles at one time, but you've overcome. So I think overcoming and still continuing to climb the mountain is what people want to and strive to do. And by you giving them a YouTube channel to call in and talk about their own experiences,
right?
Many.
There were things I was really ashamed of, and traumas and tragedies I went through in middle and high school that I was afraid to talk about for such a long period of time. For example, being very unpopular and having no friends and getting bullied. I was really ashamed of that. You know, I mean, nobody wants to be the unpopular kid with no friends, and you know, but you need to realize. I mean, maybe someday I can go to middle and high schools. Obviously, not at the moment. You need to be recovered and be an inspirational kind of story. You don't want to be like, I mean, I'm going to use this joke again, like Borat giving a speech like "Stop bullying," but you seem like you have issues. But I want to just realize, like, tell people, bullying is a really traumatic thing. It can cause severe mental illness. You know, it's horrible. And maybe I can be an inspirational story. Like, look, I've overcome the trauma and I've made myself a success. And, you know, look, kids, if you...
It would be tremendous if you could do that, because there are so many people out there that would benefit from you going around and going to schools and talking about it. And it just doesn't start in high school. It starts as early as grammar school, believe it or not. Bullying starts as early as grammar school.
Do you know what? I mean, I found I started getting bullied in middle and high school. And I think I know it's tragic, but I think it correlated with the divorce, because when I was entering sixth grade, you know, obviously you and Dad got divorced, and I became a lot more anxious, insecure. I became weaker. And that's when I noticed the bullying intensified. And it's really unfortunate, but it happened. I mean, there's nothing I can do about it. I can't sit back and cry. I can come back with a vengeance and make myself a success, you know?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I remember for myself, my brother died when I was 14. And it was tragic. My family was basically almost falling apart. And everybody was just not there. And I was terrified. What's going to happen to me. So I think that's a very, very difficult age for anything traumatic to happen.
And that's no excuse. I mean, obviously I became anxious and I became a little bit more susceptible, but the kids that bullied me were like huge jerks, sadistic. They were monstrous kids, and
evil.
They were evil kids, and they took pleasure in bullying me. And
but
I don't know. Like they would tell me, like, you have no friends, nobody likes you, nobody else would accept you. And what I needed to realize was just get away from these people. And you know, I was kind of insecure. I felt like no other lunch table would want me sitting there. So I stayed and I just took the abuse because I didn't want to feel like I had no friends. So even though these kids are bullying me, abusing me, you know, wrecking my self-esteem, damaging me, I just wanted to stay because I wanted to feel. And what I needed to realize, it's better having no friends than people who abuse you, basically.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of people in married situations, Andrew, that go into married situations and they stay in abusive marriages because they're so terrified that they don't want to be alone. So they stay where the abuser then has complete control over the one part. They isolate them and they stay in this situation sometimes for years and years and years.
I mean, obviously, if you're dependent on somebody financially, you know, they have power over you. I mean, sometimes people are going to stay.
And they're terrified because support groups out there. Yeah. So.
You there?
I mean, going happening around them. What?
Yeah, for some reason it said my internet connection was unstable, but it seems like you're back now. It was disappointing because we were on a good topic.
Yeah, young people knowing their worth and knowing that nobody has the right to change that, and nobody defines your worth but you. And even if maybe at the moment your parents aren't 100%, or your friends aren't 100%. It doesn't define who you are and what. And a lot of young people getting involved in something that they can be creative, and that's a big topic that where you can help.
Yeah, no. Yeah. I personally find, purpose and validation through art. Something. I know, like, I hear people at NAMI say they find validation through running and exercise. And I mean, it doesn't really, it doesn't necessarily, I mean, some people aren't artists. I'm an artist. I like creating, but some people like exercise, and, you need to find something, some kind of purpose. I know, you know what I mean?
This is true. And I think that if you can get, your podcast up and going, where people, call in and ask, well, how did you handle this? And what did you do? And, is there any tips that you can give me? Is there any place like getting referrals and then also saying, what kind of comedy do you find lifts your spirit? What kind of things make you feel happier and make you feel more energized to move ahead and move forward? And doing all these things helps other people. It definitely helps other people,
I mean, obviously, when you're so focused on yourself, I mean, that's unhappiness. I mean, being like narcissistic and focusing on yourself. I mean, what you need to do is you need to focus on helping other people and making people smile. So I know. Actually, I had a discussion with Dr. Natural, and he was trying to, he was wondering like what is your goal with your art and your comedy? Is it to be just to make money for yourself? I'm saying no, it's to help people. But isn't that what he was doing with psychiatry anyway? He was getting into psychiatry to make money for himself, to make himself successful. But, he's also getting into it to help people. I mean, unfortunately, in capitalistic society, you need to make money for survival. I mean,
well, I think a doctor to go into his profession, yes, it's a lucrative profession. However, it's not an easy profession because,
I mean, he was wondering if my rock star, movie star aspirations were completely self-serving. I had no desire to help people. Please don't interrupt me. He was trying to say my aspirations were completely self-serving. I'm trying to make myself like Borat, like Sacha Baron Cohen. I have no desire to help people with mental health. I'm like, no, that's not the case. I want to help people with my movie, show people they're not alone. Kind of like he did with psychiatry. Obviously, he's in the business of psychiatry to make money, but it's not completely self-serving. I want to help people ultimately,
Okay, so in what you want to do with your podcast, how do you feel that you can help people by them calling in and giving and asking you different things about what you've been through and what you can advise them and things that you can suggest to them?
I mean, obviously you need an audience before people can call in. At the moment, I have no.
Well, how do you get an audience?
My God, I mean, obviously, try. I mean, my first step is to start talking to people at the Psychosocial Clubhouse, letting them know I'm interested in creating a podcast, letting them know if people are interested in talking with me on the podcast, just pretty much networking in the real world, talking to people in the real world, because making videos on YouTube, I mean, I get 10 views on my videos. God knows who's viewing it, but,
Okay.
But my point is, there's really no demand to call into the Andrew Show. Obviously, you can call in and we can have a discussion, but there's really no clamoring for mental health related people that want to call in at the moment.
Or what if you had a guest on your show? Okay, so
I did. I have this guest from Ireland who I talk to pretty frequently. He's younger, but we have good discussions. And
so young people would be interested. Young people would be interested in your discussions?
I mean, the young people who watch my channel, and I know I've talked that there are a few people college age who watch my channel, they like more of the sensational Borat-like comedy. They don't really like the mental health discussions. But I have friends from the Psychosocial Clubhouse who are in their 40s, 50s. They like the more intellectual discussions about it. So I mean, I can appeal to different genres, but why do you want to be a clown, a buffoon? I want to help people, basically, so.
So I think that what about we see if we can get guest speakers and start with people and friends that you know that would be interested in listening to the guest speakers, and then it becomes word of mouth. We can make up flyers. I don't know how I know that there are certain things that you can do to get an audience to listen.
I know social media like Twitter is very good for promotion. A lot of people argue Donald Trump won the presidency from subverting the media and posting on Twitter, because the liberal media will obviously try, and they have their agenda. They'll try and do their message. But I mean, talk to the public through Twitter. Just promote yourself. Okay, I don't want to get into politics, but my point is Twitter is a powerful tool. I mean, if you have followers, I have no followers, so nobody's following me. But if you have followers, you can talk to people through the internet, and you don't even have to. But then again, actually, Twitter lately has been censoring and fact-checking the president's tweets.
Yeah, no. Yeah, you want a podcast where people aren't, where you can do what you want to do and say what you want to say and not be.
This brings up the topic of freedom of speech. It's really interesting that, in America, freedom of speech exists, but these liberal Californian companies can censor and fact check the president of the United States. There's something really wrong with that picture if you think about it. Think of all the power these social media companies have. And they can even censor the president of the United States of America,
That's frightening, right? It's frightening.
That is frightening, yeah.
So, but then we're getting off topic. Let's get back to.
You're coming in like you're underwater. I don't know what happened, but try to.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me now?
No, you could try to resume what you were doing before.
All right, hang on a second.
Yeah. Okay. So my mom, until she comes back from underwater, I'm gonna try to entertain you with some woo. Don't be a buffoon. Be a positive role model to people who are suffering with mental health. Okay, you back?
Can you hear me now?
A little bit better.
Okay. So this is my question to you.
Yeah.
Okay. So how do you how can I put this? How do you get an audience non-censorable? So Twitter can't censor it, and you can speak about all the things that need to be addressed.
I'm sorry, I don't understand your question.
In other words, how can you get, if you want to bring a guest on your show and
what are you doing right now? What are you doing right now?
I'm just nothing.
Are you
but so how do you do that? How do you get somebody on your show as a guest, and that you can have people call in and questions and answers? How do you achieve that? Do you know?
You need an audience. I'm making a show. I mean, I'm kind of doing that right now, but I mean, unfortunately, besides you, who has the desire to call in? I mean, you need an audience.
But I think what if you had a guest speaker, like a well-known guest speaker? How would you get that out there, that your show is going to have a well-known guest speaker? I
mean, obviously, networking with my psychiatrists, networking with the people at the Psychosocial Clubhouse, networking with people in the mental health community. I mean, if I get a show that gets a good reputation, say, listen, I want to promote. You know what I mean?
Okay, all right. So then that I think. Because I do believe once it takes off, I do believe a lot of people would be very interested in calling in. For instance, let me give you for instance. There was a group years ago that I knew of that it formed in a town here on the North Shore of Long Island. And it was specialized in a certain area. But what it did is and this was before the internet was really big, but it got in specialized.
Basically, people are telling me, lose the professional wrestling character, lose the Joker comic book character, talk naturally like yourself, because that's what people relate to. I mean, there are kids in their early 20s who like the sensational nonsense. but that's appealing to the lowest common denominator. I mean,
Yes.
I mean, do I really want to appeal to man-childs and people in their early 20s, guys in their early 20s? No. I mean, I don't want to be a wrestling character. It's fun. I mean, it's fun entertainment, but lose the Joker character. Be an adult. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and the people that didn't grow up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
You want to relate to.
Wink, wink. But
yeah. Yeah. So, yes, you want to relate to people that need you and need your sense of humor and your experience. Your life experience is invaluable.
Right.
So.
And the same is true for rock music, and you know, I mean, that's appealing to the lowest common denominator too. You know, I mean, it's great to think, oh, I want to be a rock star. I always watch. I mean, some of the movies that are in general movie theaters are mass production, and some of those movies can be good, like we said, Silver Linings Playbook. But you know, some of the movies, you know, that a lot of people watch are appealing to it, like Grown Ups, and like some of these comedies, you know. Like the Adam Sandler comedies, you know, it's appealing to the lowest common denominator. That they're not really looking, you know what I mean?
I do. However, I think people sometimes, like if you, and not to put Adam Sandler down, but I think sometimes his silly, mindless movies, I think people watch just to escape life, like escapism. You know what I mean? Like to escape. You know, silliness sometimes and seriousness sometimes can be so overwhelming that people look for kind of maybe not the rock star or the
right. I mean, Adam Sandler's comedy is so mindless and garbage. I mean, he's really looking for the quick cash and little effort. I mean, people like Adam Sandler because he's charming, but you know, in a lot of ways, my comedy is more sophisticated, more intelligent, and you know, unfortunately, it's not appealing to a wide audience. I mean, unfortunately, Adam Sandler is a sellout, basically. He's selling out.
Well, it's a known he's a known thing. But I mean, some of his early movies were ridiculous. You know, just really ridiculous. But I guess you know, through the years, people just got used to his name. You know, like. I saw him on some movies in the beginning where he was just a character and like he was like a goofy character, and I guess eventually people just got used to his name.
He was originally on Saturday Night Live. Actually, I should see if I should get on Saturday Night Live, because I mean, you know, how do you even go about getting on these shows? I mean, develop a resume, have experience at a comedy club, and say, look, I'm funny. I would be a good cast member. And if you shine on Saturday Night Live, maybe they'll be like, all right, it's time to, you know, create a stupid movie, an Adam Sandler movie. And then you sell out and you make Grown Ups and Jack and Jill and Blended, and everybody, you make the big money.
Like Eddie Murphy sold a character that he did on stage at a comedy club, Gumby. And he was like Black Gumby, and he'd say, I'm Gumby, damn it. And it was like he created out of a kid's character from years ago, he created like a man Gumby. And you know, it was so over the top and ridiculous that it actually took off. Like he created this man Gumby that would like yell at everybody. And Gumby was like a sweet character. I don't know if
all right. So, you know, basically put yourself in the real world. I mean, like Dr. Garrett says, I haven't proven I'm a comic genius yet. I think I am. I think the cream will rise to the top. Just go to Governors in Levittown. Go to the Brokerage in Belmore. Show your worth. I see comedians like Jim Norton. I see comedians like Jim Jeffries. I shine a lot brighter. I'm a lot funnier. You know, even my comedy at the Psychosocial Clubhouse shines. But if you sit in your bedroom making videos on YouTube, nobody's going to see it, basically, you know?
And that is what it is.
That is what it is!
Signing out.
Signing out.